Hello, this is Walter Viola. I had put together a series of videos all around the RipOff Report type sites, the scam sites. The first one was part one, that was called Big Business to Destroy You. The second one was Don't Be a Victim. The third was We Need to Regulate. Now, as a final approach to this, I've had years of professional experience. I'm a degreed accountant, and so went through the corporate world and the public accounting world, and then ultimately opened up a consulting practice doing more technical accounting. But through that period, I was also teaching CPAs, certain CPE courses throughout the year, and then ultimately started authoring courses. When I got to this point, I said, well, I'm used to publicly speaking. In order to take this to the next level, why don't we simply put out an email address, petition all those that have been hurt by these RipOff Report type sites that feel isolated, alone, broke, dejected, quite honestly. And as part of my third video, We Need to Regulate, my thought was that what we do is we bring a significant group of people together and we start getting together some form of a lobby to petition the FCC or the Congress and take it on the road, have a series of talks. So for those that are unable to actually come to a physical location, we can have a live stream feed where they can actually be on a screen and ask questions or maybe discuss some of the things that they've discovered. The ultimate purpose, though, is to come together collectively. I will put together a speaking engagement in Chicago and try to publish this information. Again, I'm going to put up my email address just for this, for those that actually want to comment. Maybe if they're a little concerned that they're going to get burned, they want to just have a discussion, and then they can leave their phone number and I can give them a call. All right, so let's go through this. So how would this work? As in any kind of movement, when people feel wronged, they're much stronger in groups. There's this feeling of support. There's a camaraderie that grows, and in many cases, lifelong friendships may come out of this as well. The purpose of having a live lecture series starting in Chicago and maybe moving across the United States is to draw attention to this. By drawing attention, Congress then starts to see it, the media starts to see it. What these rip-off sites have been very good at doing, as I said in previous video, is isolating people, attacking an individual, and making sure that if anything is being said, they further attack. They need to destroy anybody that's going to pose their ability to make money. So what I would like to do is I'm going to put a series of discussion points that will be addressed at these talks, and I'm actually encouraging people to step forward and either be part of the presentation or be willing to actually lend their voice to the cause. For certain people that feel a little concerned about being exposed if they put their name on anything, then you don't have to do that. But in order for this to gain any kind of attention, sadly enough, politicians and Washington don't respect the individual. It's got to be a grassroots movement rather. And similar to what the Tea Party had done, everybody laughed at them and thought these are just a bunch of wackos. But at the end of the day, what started happening? They started getting people in elected office. So I think this is a very good cause, especially for the amount of people who have been damaged by this. Okay, so as part of this conference, the theme of the conference is very important, and setting the parameters of what it is and what it isn't. I want to make it real clear, and I had stated this in previous videos about not being a victim, and the third video was around we need regulation. That's really the theme. So although there will be a lot of different participants that will have different situations, those that were defamed by people that are trying to destroy their business, such as competitors, that's a theme. Those like myself that were in the middle of litigation as a defendant, and a lawyer found a way to utilize a public forum to destroy me, that's a theme. So we want to have those specific themes, because if it's ever brought before Congress or the FCC, we want to be very succinct. We don't want to be ranting and raving. Now, the other thing is this is not about any group profiting. So we do not want to discuss the pros and cons of working with a reputation repair firm. Forget about it. The pros and cons of hiring a law firm. Forget about it. We just assume that people are going to take that course of action. They're already going down that road. We don't want to feed into this beast, because as I said in previous videos, this has become an industry. The websites love the promotion. The reputation repair firms love the promotion, and clearly so do the lawyers. They are the profiteers. And look, I'm an accountant, so I believe in capitalism. In this cause, we aren't going there. We are simply going for regulation. We want to protect our rights when people abuse the right of free speech. And so accordingly, we will have those speak about the types of defamation that occurred, but it's always going to lead to how do we get the law changed, how do we get regulation enacted, and then ultimately we need a speaker that has a legal background on how to approach Congress. We need someone that has a background on how it's possible to put together a proper amendment. Now, not to be too Pollyannish about this whole process, I mean, I know this is a major undertaking. I think kind of in the spirit of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, you know, you got to be able to start somewhere. So I think the first concern that I have is why the FCC ever backed out of this back in 1996. It seemed perfectly obvious that the internet was just another extension of telecommunications, but they did, and now are slowly trying to get back into it due to the significant increase of usage. If the FCC is successful in being able to step into this role, there's going to be all these objections, especially by the ACLU, that what they're doing is limiting free speech once again. We need to make it perfectly clear. We are not objecting to free speech. What we're objecting to is someone walking into a crowded theater, which is the internet, and screaming fire, which causes pain and hurt to individuals, similar to when people go out and defame someone's character. That's how we approach this. It has to have succinct steps, much like in my third video I had given a series of examples, such as the website should be put on notice if there's a legal case in process. They cannot publish anything while it's still in the court system. That's a fair ruling that I think the FCC would be able to put in place. But through all this, there are going to be great struggles against lobbyists, because this is a huge industry. And as always, these scam sites, these reputation repair sites, and even these law firms who have now specialized in it, they sure in the heck do not want this industry to go away or be regulated in any way. So we need to be clear about what we're up against. In the spirit of my previous videos on this, especially Don't Be a Victim, when pulling together a major event like this and pulling people together, a couple things that we don't want to make the mistake of doing. We do not want to get a bunch of people in a room all wanting to tell their story or all wanting to complain. What we're going to assume is everybody is coming with the intention of, number one, identifying the problem at hand. Number two, what recourse we have through the legal system and the legislation system. And number three, who's going to actually assist in getting this information to these appropriate parties in order to make a change. Now, in addition to that, you know, if you go out to YouTube, you'll hear some pretty compelling stories, and some are very good. And if you are someone that's already gone through the whole thing and you basically cleared your name, and you say, hey, I'm done, I don't want to revisit this issue, I would petition you not to take that position. I think you have a lot to offer, and being a little bit old school, I think face-to-face is the best way for people to really get an understanding of what the process should be. But even in those cases, those people that have cleared it, I'm not looking for them to speak on how they were hurt, because I think we all know all the areas of hurt that everyone's going through. What I'd rather they do is contribute to either the legal position that can be taken if someone does not want to be part of a legislative group, or why they feel this regulation and legislation potentially under the FCC is good. So it's going to be very constructive, and we need those that have gone through it and cleared the process. We need those that are midway. We need those that don't know what to do and are looking for those that came before them. Now, to make it clear what we're dealing with, you know, me personally, I've gone through a series of economic downturns from the 80s and the 90s, even made it through the bust of 2008. And in every case, I always was able to muster up the strength to get around it and continue on and continue to be productive and live life. What has happened to me is something I've never dealt with before. It's a complete destruction where my options are very little. So this is this big push for amendment or regulation. Now, when I look at these RipOff Report type sites, I look at their founders as the modern day Jesse James. You know, it's a cowboy world out there, unregulated, and you know, they're not stealing money from stagecoaches. They're stealing people's reputation. You know, when you defame someone, it's equivalent to murder. I mean, it's cannibalism. And if the federal government does not see this as it had the injustices in the past around the monopoly laws and the securities exchange laws and what have you, I don't know what they're waiting for. So once again, we need to be very succinct about what is happening in that industry. We need to find out why it is the FCC had backed off. We need to find out what the FCC is doing to change it, and then we need to be able to construct a good amendment or recommended legislative changes to stop this thievery that's going on by stealing people's lives. My case, I was looking towards retirement within the next 5 or 6 years. The bust of 2008 was bad enough. Now I get hit again and being ripped off even worse. That's why their site is so appropriate. They are the classic ripoff. Okay, as a wrap up, I will be providing the email address once again towards the end of this or throughout the last section of the video. Looking for all those that feel they can contribute, and I'd like to put the agenda together in order to do the proper invitations and establish this new grassroots campaign. Also open to the themes that will be discussed and actually giving our organization a name. Now, what's important here is that The new head of the Federal Communications Commission is Jeet Pei. I think I'm saying that's right. Have his name scrolled up above. He's the new chairman. He was designated by President Trump in January of 2017. Our petition is much like Ronald Reagan's was to the USSR. Ajit, tear down these sites. And if he can't, Mr. Trump, tear down these sites, let's regulate this area of the internet and get some protections to the American citizens who are being destroyed. Again, please join in. It only starts with a collection of people that have been harmed in this way.